Hello everyone, my name is Avalon and welcome to Avalon Academy, a series where I will show you how to add various course components into your troll levels and create a couple new puzzles. This week we're going to be looking at Spinies. So first, a little bit of background information about the Spiny. Spiny comes in four forms. It comes in little, helmet, big and winged, and each form has its own little quirk. Firstly, Spinies are not intelligent enemies and they will walk off cliffs if there is nothing stopping them doing so bear that in mind when building around them. When they're on the ceilings, they will drop down onto players and create a speedy shell as seen above, and this spell can activate on-off switches, can break bricks one at a time, and when big, can break bricks and hard blocks in one go. When the Spiny is in helmet form, it can be kicked, and it will break bricks like a small Spiny. In game modes where you can pick things up, you can pick them up and throw them to do the same. And you can also wear them as a helmet. When you have it as a helmet, you will be destroying question mark blocks, brick blocks, and hard blocks. With a setup like this, you can actually have a big Spiny flipped over onto its back, allowing you to use the big shell in your levels. If the shell is not given any movement, either with a spring or with a player kick, it will eventually spin back to a normal Spiny. If the shell, however, is kicked by the player or a spring, it will act as if the Spiny has dropped from above and work. One final point, a power block will destroy all Spinies on the floor, including the helmet form. Flying Spinies are slightly different, in that they don't walk at all, they fly. Occasionally they will turn into these balls and they will fire spikes in all four directions at the player. The second one will fire on the diagonals. They can be placed on top of munchers to be held in place, and their spikes will go through walls and all objects. Finally, they can be placed on spikes to create an extra challenge. The last thing to note about Spinies is of course that you can spin jump off the top of them at any point. The first way you can use Spiny to troll is creating an illusion of danger. With a setup similar to the one below, where a thwomp is against the power block, you can jump down onto a Spiny and the thwomp will destroy it before the player is killed. You can use this to create situations like this one, where you have to kick the Spiny in order to activate the vine, but then maybe the player would think they've done something wrong, creating a situation like this, where they now can't jump down very easily. It's going to be very challenging for a player to jump straight into the door. However, using screen lock, I have actually put a thwomp off the screen, so there is no real danger to the player at all. You can always also use situations like this one, where there is a Spiny helmet here, and the obvious solution is to break your way through this, to collect this key, make your way over the top here, and then hit the on-off switch. However, unfortunately, the on-off switch is unhittable, so the player will have to unfortunately end themselves. The correct route was of course to kick the Spiny shell into that on-off switch, freeing the second Spiny shell, and also creating a new way for the player to proceed through the level. They can still collect their key, and the on-off switch is hit. Now the player has their key, and again there is this appearance of danger, but of course there is a thwomp off screen to stop the danger occurring. Finally, you can create situations like this, which will punish the player for waiting. If the player continues to wait for this Spiny whilst deciding how to jump, a muncher will fall. If the player chooses to not wait, the muncher will not kill them, and they can safely make their way down here. And that's all there is to it. A really simple way to troll players with an illusion of danger. The next way we're going to fool the player is by teaching them something that's not true. By showing them that the Spiny spikes hit the on-off switches, giving them plenty of time to see these Spinies trigger the on-off switches. It appears like the spikes are doing the work for the player. Using this, we can again give the player a little bit of a challenge, where they now have to time their drop to this door in between the saw coming down and trapping them. Once you have taught the player how this mechanic works, you can convince them to step forward into this area here. However, lava bubbles will fall down upon them, killing them if they have moved forward too quickly, and then the on-off switch will block them out if they were too slow. You just need to make sure that the spike block is available for them to kill themselves, otherwise you would have just soft-locked your player. So the reason this works well as a setup is that you're teaching the player that the spiny spikes are hitting the on-off switch, and many players may not actually know whether they do or do not trigger the on-offs, when in actuality there's other timers going on to trigger them. This means that when the player is met with a situation where it doesn't work as expected, then the player feels silly because it was a mechanic they should have been aware of. By flipping the big spinies onto their back, you can create shells for the players for our next troll. Kicking these forwards into power blocks will clear the way for the player to proceed and also kill the spiny. You can put very non-suspicious setups like this, where kicking the spiny forward and stepping forward too far trap the player with the shell. However, with a bit of patience, waiting behind this one way, the player can still proceed through the level. You can also put a one-way before the block so that the whole route isn't cleared for the player, and create a safe place for them to jump up when they weren't expecting the spiny to bounce back on them. As long as you make sure there is some way for the player to proceed from that point onwards. Finally, you can have the spiny appear off screen, and then again bounce back to surprise the player without hitting the power blocks. You can also use invisible blocks to create certain safe zones for the player. One thing to remember, however, if the player returns to a room that used this bomb setup to release the upside down shiny, the blocks would have already been destroyed, thus not crushing the bomb and releasing both enemies into the wild. One final thing, spinies will elevate if bounced against a wall. Now the final thing we're going to look at is shellmets. Spiny shell helmets. Great for destroying bricks, hard blocks, ice blocks, and of course, the thwomps. You can also use them to reveal hidden blocks and take the item and then destroy them. However, it will destroy any item block without giving you the item inside it, unless that item is a key. With that knowledge, you can set up a situation that looks like this, where it appears you need the mushroom to proceed and break through those brick blocks. However, upon getting up here, you will find you cannot get through with the mushroom. Now, if this was actually put into a level, you'd need to ensure there is a way to kill the player, so maybe fill these question blocks with lava bubbles. However, you can instead, and how you disguise this is down to your own creativity, give them a situation where they can collect the spiny helm and proceed, and instead they will break straight through the brick blocks and be able to get up to the key. Now the reason this may create some questioning in the player is that the key is clearly hidden in this question block here. So surely the spiny would destroy the key. Not many players realise that the key will still be collected and allow you to proceed through the key door to the end of the level. I have been Avalon, and today in the Academy we have learned how to better use spinies in our troll levels. Have a great time out there creating, guys, and I cannot wait to see what you produce using spinies. See you next time.